Each webinar in the series will begin with a brief overview of Global New York's programs and services and features one or more of our Foreign Office representatives. Each program will finish with a Q&A period. On behalf of our Global New York team, I want to extend greetings and well wishes during this World Trade Month 2021, and to thank everyone for taking the time to be here with us today. We are pleased to be able to welcome those of you who have been with us before and those who are new to the Global New York connection and relationship. Today's webinar will focus on export opportunities for the food and beverage industry in Chile, Peru, and China. And by extension of today's spotlight discussion, we particularly want to speak to your interest as to how we can help grow your company in those international markets. I'm pleased to acknowledge my fellow Global New York professionals from New York City headquarters and from various New York State regions. Ms. Maggie Cunningham and Cherry Marsh, both of whom are on the screen, were quite instrumental in setting up this webinar for us, so we thank them in advance, along with my colleague, Catherine Bamberger, or resident expert for the food and beverage industry on our Global New York team, as well as my co-presenters, Veronica Medina, our Director of the South America Trade Office, and Mr. Bert Chen, Director for the China Office. Just a few housekeeping items. Everyone will be muted during the presentations except for the speaker. Today's webinar will be recorded and posted on the Global New York website for your access after the session via internet link. We would like very much to hear from you during this session. If you have a question for our speakers or for our Global New York program staff or regional representatives, please feel free to send it through the chat tab at the bottom of your screen. We will be answering your questions at the end of the presentation. If we don't get to your question during the webinar, we will be sure to follow up afterwards. Furthermore, we would appreciate it if and encourage you to share today's webinar with and information with others you feel could benefit from this information as well. As indicated on the agenda on your screen, I will begin with a brief introduction about Global New York, which will answer many of your questions as to how we can help your business to grow internationally by accessing the available New York State resources to help achieve your objectives. Immediately after my brief presentation will be followed by our Foreign Office representatives, Veronica Medina and Bert Chen. Both Veronica and Bert bring a wealth of knowledge and on-the-ground, hands-on experience in helping companies in Chile, Peru, South America in general, and China. And I promise will be quite enlightening and appealing. So let's get started. Who are we? Why do we do what we do? And how can we help your business to export? Global New York has a mission that is twofold. We assist New York State companies to export, and we help attract foreign direct investment to New York State. And within that realm, of course, it's to help businesses to grow by hiring New Yorkers and extending their presence in New York State. Global New York is a part of Empire State Development, the state's main economic development agency, whose role it is to help spur economic development within the state of New York. For the purpose of economic development, Empire State Development has established regional offices throughout the state of New York. And for the purpose of economic development, the state is divided into 10 regions. And these regions, as you see on the screen, span from New York City, Long Island, Mid-Hudson, Capital Region, all the way across Mohawk Valley, Central New York, Finger Lakes, North Country, Western New York. In each of these regions, these regional offices are staffed by economic development professionals representing various divisions within the agency, who work on a daily basis with our local partners, economic development agencies, chambers of commerce, and the like to help spur economic development throughout the state. Our team, Global New York team, as you can see, we're a team of about 11 professionals currently. We like to say we're lean but strong. And our team here comprises of Carrie Baker Scott, who is in our Finger Lakes region, Richard Ball, Western New York, Catherine Bamberger, whom you may hear along the way, as this is our main industry, food and beverage, but Catherine also covers the capital region, North Country, and Mid-Hudson for us. Maggie Cunningham, whom you have on the screen, is our Director of External Affairs. Cherry March, our Department Coordinator. Lauren Merkel focuses on the FBI portion of our activities. Lauren Quealy, our Project Manager, who also helps in managing the STEP program. Antonio Rodriguez, who also manages the STEP program. And Omar Sanders, who is in the Southern Tier. And Brian Tuber, who manages the Global Grant Program. We all, as you can see, a small team, but very accessible. I mentioned earlier about the regions of the state. Well, if you're concerned, you'll see here that we have representatives covering each of those 10 regions across the state, which translates into coverage for all 62 counties of New York State. So a phone call away. So again, why do we do what we do? Even at our 330 million population, the US is just under 5% of the world's population, meaning that 95% of the world's population lives outside the United States. And with that, 70% of the world's purchasing power. Trade represents over 60% of the world's $88 trillion economy, and exporting companies grow, we know, faster than non-exporting companies. And that translates into greater job creation and earnings for the employees. And even with these stats, just a tiny percentage of US small businesses export. So you can say we have a vested interest in helping you to grow your exports. A quick additional fact, in New York State, over 38,000 companies we know are currently exporting. 94% of them are small businesses, small and medium-sized businesses, as we like to say. And in New York State, merchandise exports, just looking at the last full year, we have on record about $75 billion in exports. But even with that number, we're still ranked maybe third in terms of the states in exports. So you see there's room for us to grow. So we have a vested interest in helping your business to grow internationally. Looking at our goods and services that we export, you can see here that it ranges anywhere from precious stones and metals, meaning diamonds, pearls, and so, arts and antiques, electric machinery, industrial machinery, vehicle parts, aircraft, plastics, and pharmaceuticals. The point here is that we have a very diverse economy. So regardless of the business that you're in, we should be able to help you in getting access to export markets. Now, looking out towards the world, the question is asked, well, who are our top trading partners? Our top trading partners, looking at based on exports and imports, New York State, you can see consistently these countries appear on that list of information. So armed with this information, along with potential regions of the world where we can have potential for New York State businesses to grow their operations, we have established a presence for New York State in these areas around the world, ranging from China, as you can see on the screen, India, South America, South Africa, Israel, Europe, Canada, and Mexico. So today, of course, we're focusing with our colleagues representing the South America and China offices. So how can we help? And we have three main programs that we put out to our New York State businesses. And I will touch briefly on these: Export Marketing Assistance Service, the State Trade Expansion Program, and the Global Grant Fund. We're government, so we do affectionately live with acronyms. So the Export Marketing Service Assistance Service, we affectionately refer to as our EMAS program. And this program allows your company to work directly with our foreign representatives in identifying sales agents and distributors in their respective regions of the world. And through this engagement, you will be provided with a report on market intelligence, and overall about the engagement that you would like to have with the Foreign Office in helping you access that region. The great thing about this, as highlighted in the top bullet there, it's of no cost to you. I repeat, no cost to you. So it comes with a great price. And so we certainly encourage you to take advantage of this. So who is eligible? We ask that you're a New York State company, you're at least 1 year in business, you have 500 employees or less, which will qualify you as a small business, small and medium-sized business within New York State, and have at least 51% of your product value within New York State. How do you access this? It's easily accessible on the web. It's a fillable PDF form, as you see here. It takes just a few minutes to fill out, asking for some basic information about your company. And many companies have taken advantage of this over the years, and we encourage you to certainly do so. The next program I mentioned was a State Trade Expansion Program, also known as STEP. And this program is a collaboration between Empire State Development and as New York State's representative economic development agency and the Small Business Administration to increase the number of small businesses that who can begin exporting and increase the value of those exports of small businesses over time. And we are very happy and grateful that New York State was chosen several times over the years to receive grants that we now can pass on to our local businesses. And currently, under the STEP program, a New York State business can access up to $13,000 in grants per year to begin exporting globally. We have been awarded an additional $700,000 through the various years, currently Step 7 and Step 8 programs through the SBA. And in 2020, last year, we received an additional $250,000. How do we implement it? We cover up to 70% of your eligible costs for engaging in international and export activities. And what are some of those activities that the funds can be used for? Ranging anywhere from participation in trade shows and trade missions. I'll give examples of that shortly, as well as financial assistance to travel. Yes, in today's time, we're doing more on the virtual front. And yes, we took account of that to the extent that you can receive up to $6,000 for virtual services. Subscription services through the Department of Commerce. We work collaboratively with the Department of Commerce in supporting their subscription services. So if you engage with the Department of Commerce, as well as engaging in their programs for travel, we can assist you there. Again, here up to $3,000 in export assistance. Training workshops, very common. You can get up to $1,750 for qualified domestic trade exhibits. You can get up to $5,000. And for website and language translation, up to $6,000. And of course, quite common these days, we find marketing campaigns up to $6,000 you can receive. So you can see this is quite attractive. And most recently, we've been hearing companies requesting compliance testing up to $6,000 you can receive here as well. So it's an exciting opportunity for businesses. And eligibility here again, we ask that you're a New York State company, that you're in business for at least 1 year, that you can qualify under the SBA size constraints, which is you have to be a small business concern. And generally speaking, most New York State businesses qualify, and that you have at least 51% U.S. content. This is a bit different from the EMASH program where we ask for 51% New York State content. But here, 51% U.S. content would suffice. Again, a fillable application available on the web for your easy submission. And this is an example, as I mentioned earlier, of some of the trade shows and trade missions we've undertaken recently, ranging from multi-sector trade mission to Mexico, to Israel in 2019, into MedTech China. Hanover Messe just completed back in April. We had over 13 companies attend and were afforded trade assistance funding. And this month, there's a virtual trade mission to in India, working collaboratively here again with the Department of Commerce. There's a multi-sector trade mission to Mexico next month, and we're planning to do a trade mission to Canada. We're reconstituting this right now to more or less, what shall we say, a B2B type engagement for businesses, as due to COVID, we're having to make some adjustments in this one, but it's accessible, and we encourage you to take advantage of this. Last but not least, looking at the Global New York Grant Fund, which is the third in the services that we offer. This fund was established to help New York State small businesses to increase their export sales and to create jobs within New York State. Excuse me. Within this fund, we can provide for-profit companies anywhere from $10,000 to $25,000 in funding with a 50% cash match. 51% product value, again, is required for New York State with a 500 or fewer employees in New York State and be in business for at least 1 year. For not-for-profit colleagues who are maybe on this webinar with us, yes, we thought of you as well. We can provide grants ranging from $10,000 to $50,000 with a 40% cash match. So it's quite exciting, the opportunities here. Again, funds can be used for ranging from market customization, trade shows, trade missions, export education, product adaptation, market certification, and for not-for-profit organizations, you can obviously use these funds for organizing and implementing trade events and trade education programs. Now, as I mentioned earlier, we do work collaboratively with many other organizations, and since our webinar today focuses on food exports and beverage exports, we have additional support that can be afforded you through the Food Export Association of Midwest USA, as well as the Food Export Northeast USA. And these are not-for-profit organizations who work to assist your businesses to expand programs and services through three categories: education, market entry, and market promotion. Since New York State holds membership in these organizations, your business will have access to these programs and services for food export, and by engaging also with the food export specialists who are within these organizations. My colleague, Catherine Bamberger, who is on the line, as mentioned, is our resident food and beverage export expert on our team. The food export services are broken down into three categories. Many of the programs and services are comparable to what we provide through the Global New York programs, but are customized specifically to benefit the food and beverage companies whose products meet at least 51% minimum U.S. agricultural content. As mentioned, if you're unsure which programs will serve your company best, give our industry specialists a call. Catherine Bamberger, who is listed here, and you have access to this on the web. Our number is readily available here, as well as colleague Ryan Carr, who is also a food export expert available to you. So this concludes our brief introduction to Global New York. I hope this answers a lot of the questions, but as mentioned, at the conclusion of this, we would take your questions and be happy to engage with you throughout. We thank you again, mentioning again that just you can access all of this information through our Global New York website. At this point, I would like to introduce, without further ado, my colleague, Ms. Veronica Medina, who will then discuss with you opportunities for food and beverage exports to Peru and Chile. Thank you very much. Veronica, take it away from here.
Thank you, Lennox. Good morning, everyone. It's great that you're all able to join us. So I'm just going to share my screen for the presentation. So once again, thank you, Lennox. Thank you, Empire State Development, everybody that's been helping me, Maggie, Cherry. to actually have this opportunity once again to share with you some exciting opportunities in Chile and Peru, obviously talking about the food and beverage sector in our countries. So I just wanted to give you kind of some idea about the indicators for both of these countries, where they stand, their competitiveness, their GDP per capita. So you have a much better information in terms of these two countries. So top trading partners, we see that actually for both Chile and Peru, it's China, the United States, and Brazil. So they are doing trade with the US, and we will see this later on in the presentation. There's a long history of economic trade with the United States for both of these countries. In terms of world competitiveness ranking, what we see here in the parentheses is that's the regional ranking. So for Latin America, we see Chile standing number 1 in Latin America for the world competitiveness ranking, and Peru is at number 4. So they are very high ranking countries within LATAM. In terms of GDP per capita, here Chile actually has the highest GDP per capita again in Latin America, with about $23,000 per capita, and Peru stands at approximately $12,000. And then the last point I just wanted for you to notice here is the population for both of these countries. Chile is approximately 19 million, and then Peru is a bigger market with 33 million in population. In terms of GDP growth, so where are we coming from, where we are, what's our future? I think there's no surprise here with the numbers with regards to 2020. I think all countries around the world have been experiencing negative GDP growth due to the pandemic, a situation that we never really saw coming for, and now about a year and a half into it. But the very good news here is that for 2021, 2022, both of these countries, but also the region of South America, is expecting positive GDP growth. Here we see Chile in the green, Peru in the yellow, and both countries are actually above average of the South America average for GDP growth for this year and next year. And Peru is actually coming back very strongly. Again, just to give you a little bit of background of where US exports are to our country, I think we saw very strong growth in 2018, even 2019, but here we see the pandemic effect in 2020. Now, these numbers we are thinking are obviously going to be offset by the growth that we will see in our economies this year and 2022. I also wanted to give you some idea about our vaccination programs. We were speaking with Maggie just before everyone joined in terms of maybe clients, coming back to our markets, with regarding to how the vaccination programs, are coming along in our markets. And I know that there are some states that are promoting this. So here we see Chile. We're actually top 3 in the world in terms of our vaccination program. We have close to 50% of our population already with 2 doses, and approximately 87 people per 100 being administered a dose. And Peru is actually growing their vaccination program as we speak. So they are purchasing more and they are vaccinating more. So Chile, a little bit of a country overview. In terms of economic freedom, it's ranked number 1 in Latin America. So it's a very open economy. It's very free, a lot of trade. We are #1 exporter in the world for fresh grapes, blueberries, dry and fresh plums, dehydrated apple. We're #2 in salmon, and we're #3 in bulk wine, among others. Also in terms of minerals, which are important for our economy, we are the world's largest exporter of copper and second exporter of lithium. In terms of the food and beverage industry, this industry has seen approximately a 7% growth annually, and we will dig down a little bit deeper into kind of the subsectors of that throughout the presentation. And another point that I want to bring your attention to is that Chile actually has the most free trade agreements signed in the world. We have 29 free trade agreements signed that cover over 65 markets. And we've had a free trade agreement with the United States since 2004. So we have a long history of trade with the US. In terms of the influence of COVID in our food and beverage industry, here's some of the trends that we've seen the last year and a half happen through COVID. We see a trend for healthy food, for organic food. We've obviously, because we've been under lockdown, we've seen a trend in terms of increase in delivery services and e-commerce that has actually statistically over an increase of over 60–70% in these retail channels for fast foods, for restaurants, for retail in general, and for supermarkets. So that's been very strong here in our market. And actually, I'm based in Santiago, just so everyone knows. We've also seen a big trend. It was coming pre-pandemic, but I think during the pandemic, this has actually grown a lot, is supermarkets developing their own brands. So any companies that is doing white labeling has a big opportunity here in our market. And we have seen during the past year, the population purchasing cheaper options and focusing on first necessity products. So what are some of the opportunities in this sector? So for the retail sector, we've seen a growth of over 30% in this sector, which means approximately $3 billion since 2015. The packaged food market is also expected to reach $18 billion. And that's a growth rate, again, of nearly 30%. So we are seeing very healthy growth rates. And we're also seeing a trend for this convenience shop model through the convenience stores, through gas station stores, and maybe supermarkets that are smaller in size. With regards to some of the best prospects here, again, we see the healthy products coming in, snacks, everything with protein, dairy, sauces, frozen and prepared meals are also coming in very strongly. With regards to the food service, we've seen a growth in this sector, nearly 25% through the last years coming through to 2022. And the HRI sector, there's also been a demand for diversified products and also more elaborated products. So we are seeing these changes also affecting HRI. With regards to some of the best prospects in this, we have diet and light soft drinks, we have the dried fruits and seed snacks, ready to drink coffee, which is coming in quite strongly also in the retail sector, dairy products, beef portion cuts, sauces, and mixed condiments. With regards to the fruit processing sector, again, this industry represents 25% of our economy, and it's expected to grow over 35% by 2030. This industry is looking for innovative ingredients to produce healthier foods. Again, as you can see, this trend throughout all of the subsectors of this industry, and also not just healthier foods, but also trends in terms of attending to food intolerances, such as lactose-free foods or gluten-free products. That's come in quite strongly. And again, as we've seen, we are seeing the concern for the health-related products as well. Again, this was coming in pre-pandemic, but during the pandemic, that's increased. And we will talk about this at the end of the presentation, about nutritional laws that have come in that affected not only Chile, but also Peru. So some of the potential for products and natural additives, for sweeteners, for thickeners, for protein concentrates, for preservatives. So what about Peru? Peru, in terms of the country overview, it's one of the world's most culturally and historically rich countries. It's got the second highest credit rating in Latin America, behind Chile. It's one of the world's leading exporters of artichokes, mangoes, citrus, avocados, and grapes. Again, mineral, very important for Peru. It's the world's #1 silver exporter, #2 in copper, #5 in gold. And Peru also has a large network of free trade agreements signed, and the one with USA dates back to 2009. With regards to COVID influencing the food and beverage sector, again, I don't think any surprise, we see a growth in the e-commerce sector here, but in Peru, we still see a little bit more people feeling comfortable in going to buy their foods or dialing into the restaurants to order their food versus maybe the online or the app usage. And we're also seeing consumers shifting to package and to prepared foods, obviously to avoid the contamination. So what are some of the challenges that we see in Peru? Some of you might know, actually, Peru has a growing reputation for its culinary culture. It's actually one of the best culinary cultures in the world. So this does affect the food and beverage sector a little bit different, in terms that you are seeing the local taste, the local preferences coming into play much more, maybe versus a Chilean market, where we are not considered to be a culinary renowned country. So that as well, in terms of that local preference, is also there are very strong local manufacturers in Peru. So you do have to take that into account when coming into this market. So some of the opportunities in the food processing sector, it is one of the most dynamic in the country. It actually represents 25% of industrial GDP. And back in 2019, it reached $12 billion in sales. Food processing ingredients from the US is actually very strong. It reached over $200 million in 2019, and that was an increase of 60% from the United States. And we do see a growth in fishing, prepared animal feed, and milk products. With regards to some of the best prospects here, we see wheat, powdered milk, animal vegetable fats, and almonds. With regards to food retail, some of the best prospects in Peru is prepared dairy products, food preparations, chocolates, non-alcoholic beverages, prepared and preserved meats, and snacks. With some of the challenges in food retails is, again, what we saw a little bit in the beginning. Consumers prefer to buy their produce fresh. in traditional markets, and we're seeing a lot of people still going to traditional markets to purchase their foods. Supermarkets only account for 25% of retail food market in Lima and 16% in the provinces. So this you can see is a challenge, but also is an opportunity for those distribution channels to actually grow as time goes on. And again, as we just discussed in a couple of slides before, obviously lower pricing because of this strong local manufacturing that you have in Peru. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about some game-changing regulations that we've seen in both countries. There's a nutritional labeling law that affects both Chile and Peru. And the reason for that is because our countries, the population do suffer from obesity problems. And obviously that puts a strain on the healthcare system. So both of our countries impose this labeling law, which, as you see here in this cookie package, you're going to see all of the products that are actually sold through retail channels have to have these stop signs that indicate products are high in calorie or high in sugar, high in sodium, high in saturated fats. So you have to be aware of that if you are planning to export these type of products into a market. But on the other hand, what we've seen is obviously, again, this push, this growth for healthy foods, for premium processed food and beverage products. I wanted to leave you with just this additional information. I know it's not the main idea of this webinar today, but just to keep in the back of your mind, obviously food and beverage also relates to opportunities in food packaging, and here we do in both countries see opportunities in food packaging with regards to machinery for processing, for packaging, technologies for sealing, for labeling, and also sustainable packaging. So just to mention the two trade shows in Chile, the Espacio Food and Service, which is still planning to occur in September of this year, the 28th through the 30th. Obviously, we do recommend that you touch base with the ESD office to see if there's an opportunity. If it's virtual, we can, participate in that way. And for Peru, we have the Expo Alimentaria show, which is actually the most important F&B trade show in Latin America. It will go virtual this year, but we're still waiting to hear on the dates for that. Again, just to mention again a little bit what Lennox said, some of the services that our offices provide free of charge to New York companies, anything from market research to business partner searches and to trade missions and setting up these B2B meetings, and everything that we've done the past year has been virtual. So that is a major trend here in our markets. Some of the companies that we've worked with, just so you see a little bit of which markets, which products, and see if you fall under that. We've done anything from energy drinks to storage of wines to waffles and biscuits. And here you see there is good potential in the markets that we're working with. Canned meat, flavorings as well, teas, again, all moderate to high potential in our markets. So what are the main takeaways from the presentation today? Main takeaway, you can see there are various opportunities in the food and beverage sectors, both for Chile and Peru. Both countries have free trade agreements with the United States, which shows an experience with US products. There's a history there, but do be aware that the markets are price competitive because both Chile and Peru not only have free trade agreements with the US, but we do have free trade agreements with other regions in the world and obviously neighboring countries. So here, the competitiveness is going to be, heavily put on the pricing of the products. However, again, having said that, American-made products are perceived to be of very high quality in our markets. So I do think, that always has to be at the forefront of when you're coming in to our markets. And the last main takeaway is obviously do use our services. And I think I am coming up to my time. The last two slides just give you some recommendations of how to work our markets. Obviously, do assign a local agent, a local representative, do localize your products. Chile and Peru might be in South America, but these two markets work very differently. So please do utilize our office to help you navigate through those markets. And we will share the presentation with you at the end, so you will have all of this information at the convenience of your laptop. And we're looking forward to working with you.
Thank you, Veronica.
You're
That
welcome.
was a really, enlightening and quite illuminating. Didn't know a lot of this information before, and I'm sure many on the panel and would agree with this. Quite indeed enticing. So again, without further ado, we'll be turning it over to our colleague, Mr. Bert Chen, who is the representative for the China New York office. And at the conclusion of his presentation, we'll refer then to the Q&A period. And so I encourage you in the interim, please continue to submit your questions in the chat box. And as Bert gets prepared now, I will now turn it over to him, and we look forward to speaking to you on the other side. Bert, take it away.
Okay, thank you, Lennox. So thank you, New York Global New York team, and for giving this opportunity for me to introduce the food and beverage opportunities in China. So I'm Bert Chen from ESD China office, and I will give some brief introductions of these food and beverage opportunities. Let's begin. So these are the topics that I'm going to cover for the next few slides. And I would like to start with a brief overview of China. So China is officially known as People's Republic of China, and it's located in Eastern Asia, bordering 14 countries. So according to the recently released census results, China has 1.41 billion people, and it spreads over vastly diverse geographic areas of 9.6 million square kilometers, which is about the same size as the United States. The official language is Mandarin Chinese, and there are a total 34 administrative regions in China, and it has changed from a central planned economy to a market-based economy in the 1970s. And ever since, China experienced a rapid development. Nowadays, China is the second largest economy with a GDP of 7.72 trillion US dollars, and the largest trading nation in the world. So here are some statistics related to US exports to China. On average, US goods export to China have been growing by 2.4% per year for the last decade, which is faster than the rest of the United States' top good markets. So in 2019, the US exported just under $105 billion in goods to China. But last year in 2020, that number jumped to $123 billion, the second highest amount in a decade. Exports to China increased by roughly 18% in 2020, and China remained US' third largest good export market, while exports to the rest of the world fell by 15%. due to the pandemic. The disparity in exports is the result of China's tariff exclusion and early economic recovery post-COVID-19 pandemic. Let's dive into the food and beverage sector in China. So China accounts for about 1/4 of the world's total population and hosts one of the most rapidly developing consumer markets, which provides a tremendous boost to the food and beverage industry in the country. China is now the largest food and beverage market in the world. And it's the second largest food and beverage economy in the world by revenue, second to the United States. And in 2020, the revenue generated by F&B sector reached 1.52 trillion US dollars, and is projected to reach $177 trillion in 2021. And with a compound annual growth rate of 8.38%, the sector will grow to around $2.44 trillion in 2025. Foreign investors are naturally setting their eyes on Chinese food and beverage market as affluent mainland consumers are becoming increasingly discerning. So in recent years, China's demand for foreign food and beverage products is developing at a brisk pace in tandem with its rapid economic development and the rising middle class. Higher purchasing power has led to new consumption patterns and habits, especially when it comes to imported food and beverages. Food scandals and concerns for domestic food brands are some of the key reasons why more and more Chinese consumers choose to purchase imported food. China has been the largest food importer. In 2018, its food imports exceeded 70 billion US dollars, a historical first. Here are the top 5 countries that China's imported food and beverages are from: United States, New Zealand, Canada, Australia, and Brazil. So in terms of the imported food and beverage categories, seafood, meat, and dairy products are among the top 3 food and beverage imports. US is among the top 3 on China's seafood and meat imports. In addition, China is among the top export markets for US major agricultural products. For example, it's number 1 in soybean, number 3 in dairy and poultry, number 4 in processed food, pork and beef, and number 5 in wheat. So China's food and beverage consumption has evolved dramatically over the past 40 years since the reform, and gradually transformed from an industry-driven to a consumption-driven market. The accelerating pace of change of consumer preferences and bargaining power has been the catalyst behind this transformation. China's growing middle class is shaking up the country's food and beverage sector, with major shifts in consumption and spending habits and greater demand for healthy and premium products. In the following section, I will be talking about the key market trends in distribution channels and consumer behaviors. So the distribution channel can be mainly divided into offline channel and online channels. The offline channels are bricks and mortar stores such as supermarkets, wet markets, and convenience stores. There are designated sections in supermarkets for imported food and beverages. For the past decade, online channels, food and beverage have been growing rapidly. Chinese consumers prefer to buy products online for convenience and for price. This is especially true during the pandemic, while people spent more time at home and they prefer to have all the necessities delivered to their doorstep. In February 2020, Chinese e-commerce giant Alibaba reported an 154% increase on food-related purchase. Also, cross-border e-commerce platforms have become a major channel for imported food and beverage products to enter Chinese market. So improvements in payment methods and offerings and targeted government support have encouraged new entrants into the sector. Also, the renewal of e-commerce law in 2019 strengthens IP protections, adjusts cross-border e-commerce import systems and tax policies. A particular example would be the regulations on the term 代购. Daigou is a Chinese word that is used to describe selling from abroad into China through personal travel or shipments. Private sales from overseas into China will be regulated. It allows more product categories to be sold legally through authorized cross-border e-commerce platforms or channels. This is also to implement Chinese government's goals to further opening the market to other countries and encouraging imports and exports into and out of China. In terms of the market trends in consumer behavior, with continuous urbanization and a growing disposable income, Chinese consumers are increasingly striving for healthier lifestyles. Food safety has long been a top concern of Chinese consumers in view of an increasing number of domestic food scandals. In response, the Chinese government has issued new national food safety standards, and companies intend to emphasize safety of products and production methods to allay consumer concerns. Also, in recent years, more and more people are changing to a healthier diet, cutting sugar, salt, cooking oil, and fat consumptions in view of a spike in diet-related health issues. For instance, low sugar and zero sugar beverages are gaining traction in recent years in China, especially among young generations. More domestic and international brands are introducing sugar-free products to cater the market. Zero sugar and low calories are some of the trendy words for marketing and labeling. Imported food and beverages are usually perceived as safe and high quality by Chinese consumers because of strict quality control. And importantly, they are willing to pay a premium for safer and healthier options. This has created new investment opportunities for foreign investors in food business in China, especially those involved with organic and health food products. So I'm gonna give an example of the subsectors and that dig in deeper a little bit. So China is the largest and fastest growing dairy market and the second largest dairy importer in the world, accounting for about 25% of international dairy product import. The country's dairy industry relies heavily on imported products because domestic production cannot meet the demand. And also, previous milk and infant formula scandals made consumers no longer trust domestic brands. Currently, two state-owned enterprises, Mengniu and Yili, dominate the domestic market with a combined market share of 51%. And New Zealand is the largest source of Chinese dairy imports, while the United States is China's largest source of wheat powders. The most consumed dairy products in China are fresh milk, milk powder, and yogurt, while cheese and butter are less popular. Increasing health awareness and government support are the driving factors that result in growing dairy consumptions. The government issued nutrition guidelines that recommend daily consumption of dairy products. That is giving rise to the whole overall national dairy consumptions. In terms of the trade agreements, the most recent trade agreement signed between the China and US is the Phase 1 deal. In January 2020, China and the United States signed this deal aimed at easing the trade war between the two countries. So under this agreement, China has committed to purchase at least the additional $200 billion worth of US goods and services over 2017 levels, totaling $468 billion, boosting purchases of agriculture by around $32 billion. Particularly, China has signaled it will purchase and import on average at least $40 billion annually of US food, agricultural, and seafood products. The latest numbers from China Customs show that imported just under $135 billion from the US in 2020, which is 58% of what China committed to. China imported of 64% of its targets for agricultural products and 60% of its target for manufactured products and 39% of energy products, while US exported 82% of its target for overall goods exports. According to Peterson Institute for International Economics, As of March this year, China has completed 75% of its March import target and 18% of the annual target. And there, for the next 2 slides, I'm gonna introduce the import laws, regulations, and procedures for food and beverage sectors in China. So there are many laws and regulations regarding this sector in China, and they vary across types of food and may not be consistently applied and enforced by different ports, bureaus, and individual officers. The left-hand side box shows the common laws and regulations for food and beverage imports. And the right-hand side box shows the major regulators involved in the F&B import process. Please note the last one, AQSIQ, standing for General Administration of Quality Inspection, Supervision, Inspection, and Quarantine. This is a very important regulator in the city level. This slide shows simplified import procedures for US F&B exporters. The first step is to register with above mentioned AQSIQ. And since 2014, all food and beverage exporters to China are required to register with this bureau. Then the exporters should prepare the import documentations before the shipment can take place. Here are example documentations, just such as company and product info, invoices, sales contracts, import license, and country of origin, etc. The next step is labeling. All imported prepacked food products are required to be labeled in simplified Chinese, while other languages are also allowed if accompanying with Chinese. The labels must be approved by a bureau called CIQS, which is a local city level inspection authority that operates under AQSIQ. Labeling is allowed to take place in bonded warehouses in China. The minimum required info to be listed include the name of the products, list of the ingredients, the information of local agents and manufacturers, guidance for storage, and country of origin. The last step is passing CIQ inspections and custom clearance. CIQ personnel will check the goods to confirm it includes the correct labeling and shipping documents required. Since the COVID-19 outbreak in January 2020, Chinese consumers expressed increasing focus on personal health and online purchasing. Many of them changed to healthier diet to improve immunity and were used to online purchasing to avoid direct contact with people. Also, there have been increasing concerns of COVID contamination on imported frozen food and beverages, which led to a stricter import good inspections. So China has been investigating the potential for COVID-19 to be imported along with frozen food shipments since June last year, when the outbreak in Beijing was traced to a frozen fish stall at wet market. China has found the virus on the packaging of products from 20 countries around the world. With more cases of COVID-19 linked to frozen food emerging in China, the State Council announced new rules last year requiring that the imported cold chain food go through preventive disinfection before contacting with domestic personnel. If the test result is positive, the goods shall be returned or destroyed in accordance with regulations. If it's negative, preventive disinfection is required to be implemented on imported cold chain food. In addition, the regulators has extended the mandatory traceability requirements for imported meat and seafood to all food products transported through cold chain. Chinese testing of food imports for COVID-19 contamination is adding cargo clearance delays of up to 2 weeks, which is important for US exporter to be aware of. So here are also the opportunities and challenges for US F&B exporter to enter Chinese market. With continuous urbanization and increasing disposable income, imported food and beverages have tremendous potential demand in second and third tier cities in China. More Chinese consumers are looking for diverseness and exoticness on the table. And plus the improving logistics, cold chain and distribution infrastructures have greatly expanded imported food and beverage presence in these cities. Also, cross-border e-commerce is booming because of shifts in buying habits and government support. US exporters should also be aware of the potential challenges such as different eating and cooking styles in between the Western and China, stricter regulatory environment, import inspection post-COVID, and cultural differences when conducting business in China. So trade shows are a good platform for companies that are trying to enter new markets or expand contacts in existing markets. Companies can not only collect contacts at these shows, but also obtain industry information by talking to exhibitors and visitors. So here are three examples of large F&B trade shows in China. It's worth mentioning that the first one, CL China, is actually taking place right now in China, in Shanghai, and it started yesterday and will end tomorrow. It's Asia's largest food and beverage innovation exhibition that attracts over 4,500 exhibitors and over 123,000 visitors. And the last slide, I would like to mention our services. So how we can help with exporting to China. We can assist you with local market intelligence research, finding local partners, trade show support, marketing promotion, and setting up entity in China. If you're interested in expanding your business to China, please reach out to us through email or phone call. We are here to help you. And thank you so much. That's all from me. Thanks.
Thank you, Bert. This was really, as promised, was quite enlightening again and quite enticing. I'm sure all will agree. This is the point in the webinar where we encourage you again to submit your questions, comments. We appreciate that certainly, and our team is on hand, colleagues in the regions. Our colleague Catherine Bamberger, who are resident food expert is also on hand, as you see here on the screen there. We encourage you to participate and send in your comments. As we await your comments and questions, I just wanted to mention something that was consistent with both Bert and Veronica, that companies that export tend to manage fluctuations in the U.S. economy much better. And something we tend to overlook is that exporters are able to capitalize on the U.S. reputation for quality, innovation, customer service, and sound business practices. You heard that throughout the theme of their presentation. You really should not want to miss out on these opportunities as the world, switches to more food quality consciousness. The opportunities as populations grow are tremendous for this industry. So we urge you strongly to take advantage of these resources to help your business grow internationally by going to the Global New York website and filling out their online application, be it EMAS, STEP, Global Grant. And additionally, don't hesitate to call us at our general telephone number, which is 212-803-2300. And there you will find Ms. Cherry Madge welcoming you with a smile, whether it's on the phone or in Zoom. She's ready there to assist you in getting you to the right colleagues as well. And as mentioned earlier, or representatives throughout the state. As indicated, there are also additional resources that are readily available. People with whom we work and organizations with whom we work very closely. Catherine would I guess if you want to comment here, Catherine, as we wait for any questions to come into the chat box. If you want to comment a little bit more on the food export opportunities for and assistance through the Midwest Food Export Association, Midwest and Food Export Association Northeast. I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. Yes, a lot of companies think that you have to be, sort of a big multinational company in order to send food and beverage products overseas. And what we found is that it's not actually the case. We've had a fairly small bagel company out of Brooklyn market and sell their products, and they were quite popular for a period of time in Japan. They did have to change some of their flavor profile, so instead of the cinnamon raisin style was not popular at all, but they actually came up with a new flavor profile that was a kind of fish, like an anchovy style, that was really popular, flying off the shelves. But the key ingredient um, to be for a food and beverage company, and it's true with a lot of different industry sectors, but particularly in this industry sector, is sort of branding and reputation for sure, but really the relationships and attention to details. So in that particular case, Brooklyn has a reputation for having the best bagels in the world, and so this company was from Brooklyn. They certainly played on that. A lot of companies will find that they follow um, a, a company that they're already working with. So if they have a partnership, for example, where they're already selling into Costco's, sometimes their first export experience is with the Costco's in Canada or Mexico. We also find that a lot of companies, particularly the New York based companies, participate in the Summer Fancy Food Show that was typically held in the Javits Center. And companies from all over the world, importers and distributors, will come to New York City to look for the sort of the newest, the fad, the trend, whatever it is, um, the hot trend for that year. And so, we have a distinct advantage in New York, that people recognize New York as a brand, and they can place us on a map when they look at a map of the country. They know where New York is, and so there's certainly an amount of cachet that comes with a food and beverage company that comes out of New York. But we do offer support for that show when that show starts happening again in person, which is probably going to be next year, but also some of the other programs and services that they offer. Also, our colleagues from Department of Commerce, those are all potentially reimbursable expenses. And so, if you have an interest in participating in the Summer Fancy Food Show or the Natural Products Expos, those are all domestic shows and programs. The National Restaurant Association show, those programs, even though they're held in the US, are still considered international shows, and those are still eligible for support either through the STEP program or through the branded program, which is the food export version of STEP. It offers some financial support in very similar ways, lots of opportunities to combine activities into one application, whereas STEP is more of an a la carte menu. To keep using food analogies, where you pick and choose specific activities. So we're really fortunate in this industry, both from New York State and from a support standpoint, that we have our partners at Food Export USA representing the 13 Northeast states and a partnership with the Midwest. So we get to access, by our membership, New York State's membership in their programs, we get to actually access all of the programs that are offered in both regions. So we have just a tremendous amount of resources for this industry sector.
I think just one thing I wanted to add as well here. I think, Lennox, the other trend that you heard between our office and Bert in China is the trend for the healthy products, right? So I think it's it's a tough ask for companies, because this trend is not only just to the countries that we cover. We see Bert in China as well, the healthy trend, but just to let companies know that, we can help in terms of maybe which countries you should start going into first. And because you can't go everywhere at the same time. So again, please use the services that the offices provide to better guide you, to better help you in terms of what your strategies are as a company, in terms of the region that that you're looking to expand to, and then from there we can guide you. But obviously, healthy nutraceuticals, these food groups that are coming in, that's a trend. I think is very big in across the world. And the other thing is to point you that in coming this November, and I know that Maggie will send this to everyone, but coming in November, there's a mission plan to both Brazil and to Colombia. It's not countries that we cover today in the presentation, but our office covers Colombia. So if you're interested in participating in that upcoming mission in the next months, it'll be either physical or virtual. You have a choice, preference of which one you would like to do. That's the next one coming up for our region.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Veronica. And this is an area where companies really can use assistance, because country by country, the labeling requirements will differ slightly. And in that particular category, any nutritional or beneficial claims that you might be able to make in the United States, you may or may not be able to make in other countries. And so having that information allows you to enter the market from a position of knowledge, and will help you avoid making some costly mistakes. But the labeling changes and the changes to packaging are export assistance eligible, both through STEP and through the branded program. In the branded program, you can actually even get the cost of producing a year's worth of packaging for a particular country, supported through their program. So it's a 50% reimbursement, and that can be a significant savings to some of our companies.
Well, great. This is thank you, Veronica. Thank you, Catherine, for this. So we encourage anyone who has a question and doesn't feel shy today to get your questions in. Other than that, if you're too shy to do it today, we know there are several people still on. Again, we encourage you to give us a call, a phone call away, an email away, and we'll be happy to respond to you and engage you with Global New York's programs and services. Want to extend a thanks to Maggie Cunningham, Cherry Madge, for putting on this webinar for us and going through it such that we can avoid and survive any technical challenges. And we have. Again, thank you to Veronica Medina, Director for the South America offices, and Mr. Bert Chan, again, for staying up with us, the Far East, China, to do this wonderful presentation. Your presentations have been enticing and really enlightening, and I'm sure we look forward to engagement with our clients as we go forward. So to all, thank you again for joining us today, and happy World Trade Month, and we'll look forward to engaging with you going forward. Thanks, everyone, and have a good day. Bye-bye.
Thank you so
Bye,
much.
everyone.
Yeah,
Stay
thank
safe.
you, everyone.
Bye.